If you're frustrated with how much time it's taking you to get better at figure drawing, chances are you're making at least one of the mistakes that I'm gonna be talking about in this video. And that's what's been holding you back. How do I know that? Well, because I've made every single one of the mistakes on this list. And the moment I stopped doing them, things changed a lot. So here's me talking about my mistakes and how I fixed them. For the first mistake, let's think about the humble potato. By itself, it might just be the most boring ingredient. But the potato has a special superpower. When you combine it with other ingredients, things like oil, a pinch of salt, pepper, a bit of garlic powder, well, then it becomes a mouth-watering masterpiece. This is pretty much exactly like drawing. And in art, your spices are the values on your value scale. This scale holds all the different shades from light to dark that you can play with in your drawing. Take a look at this before and after drawings from one of my students. One of the reasons the second drawing looks better is because it's using the whole range of values, whereas the first one is only sticking to the middle of the scale. And if you're only sticking to the middle of your value scale, you risk ending up with a drawing that looks like a bland potato. But start using the whole range of values, and your drawings will become delicious French fries. To fix this mistake, start by finding the darkest and lightest areas in your reference, even before you start drawing. This is super important to understand the value range of your reference. You'll also need to use the right tools for the job, so make sure you use different pencils that help you have a range of deep blacks, mid-tones, and light shades. None of this will matter unless you're able to protect the lightest areas from getting smudged. So one of my best tips is to keep your lightest areas clean for maximum impact. And to avoid smudging your light tones, I like to place a piece of scrap paper under my hand while I'm drawing. This will help you keep your drawings clean and smudge-free. Learning to use the full range of values in your figure drawing is like learning the keys of a piano, and understanding how to use them is crucial. But drawing figures that not only look real but also feel believable is a bit more complex. It's more like writing a whole song on the piano. This is where most beginners get stuck. And to show you how I fixed this mistake, let's go back in time. To the moment this artist made this drawing. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a fine drawing, and I remember being proud of it at the time. But looking at it now, there are a few things that don't feel believable about the character. And if we quickly pass it through an X-ray machine, we can see the problem easily. There's just no understanding of anatomy whatsoever. And I'm not saying that you need to be an anatomy expert or remember the names of every single bone and muscle in the body. But a basic understanding of anatomy will help you a lot. Something as simple as knowing the ideal proportions and standards of the body makes a huge difference in your drawings. And I know learning anatomy sounds boring and time-consuming, but it's really not. After spending just a few hours learning about anatomy, my drawings got so much better. You only need a bit of time to learn the essential stuff, and it's a game changer for your art. Plus, knowing all of this will be super useful during your whole art journey. So give it a try, because you'll be surprised at how much it will actually help you. And I know that's a bit of an obvious one. Learning anatomy will make me better at figure drawing. What's next? Umbrellas keep you dry when it rains. But that's only one side of the equation. Think of it as a coin with two sides. On one side, you have the basics of anatomy. And on the other side is knowing how to balance a body in space. If you draw a figure without thinking about balance, it makes the viewer feel uncomfortable because it goes against our natural understanding of gravity. You see, your brain expects things to be stable, so when they're not, it creates an uneasy feeling. And if you want to make sure that your drawing looks balanced, a great place to start is with something called the tilt line. This is an imaginary line that runs through the body and helps you understand which way it's leaning. Once you have the tilt line, you can draw two lines around it that help you capture the balance of your figure. These lines are really helpful because they do more than just show balance. They also create shapes called negative spaces around the figure. You can look at these negative spaces in your reference and compare them with your drawing. This is a cool tip that will help you check if you have the balance right in your figure drawing. Sometimes it takes more than one try to get the balance right, but the goal is to make your figures look like they are really standing or moving without falling. So the next mistake is often considered to be the hardest thing about drawing figures, and it usually sends beginners running away in fear. But let me show you a magic trick.
How about a magic trick?
I'm gonna turn this pencil into a circle. As I start rotating it, you will notice that the pencil looks shorter and shorter until it looks like a circle. This illusion is called foreshortening, and it happens when an object moves closer to us, making it look shorter than it is. Understanding this concept is like eating a mushroom while you're playing Super Mario. It just levels you up completely because it allows you to create much more interesting and dynamic poses. And I think that the most common mistake figure drawing beginners make is being afraid of foreshortening. Learning how to draw foreshortening is much easier than you might think. To start, let's stop for a moment to think about how the body moves. If you move your arm, it swings in a curve, right? And the center point of that curve is your shoulder. And there are two other important landmarks in that curve, your elbow and your hand. This curve will always be there, no matter which way you're moving your arm. When you're drawing an arm, all these landmarks need to fit in the right spot inside the curve of movement. If they don't, your arm might look weird and not proportional to the rest of the body. These curves are known in drawing as the natural arcs of movement, and keeping them in mind will be very helpful for drawing foreshortened poses. Even when you understand these arcs of movement, foreshortening can be a bit challenging. But guess what? I found some cool tricks that made it way easier for me. The motto here is, if it feels too complex, just simplify it. How? Well, you can start by drawing rings along the body to show the direction it's going. Or use spirals to simplify the body parts and help you understand their direction, making the spirals bigger as they come forward and smaller as they move away. But my favorite tip of all to draw foreshortening is to forget the name of the thing you're drawing. Instead, focus on the empty spaces around it. It's like drawing the shapes made by the air around the thing that you want to draw. Look at your reference photo and instead of drawing the body itself, pay attention to the shapes and angles made by the spaces between things. Draw those shapes. I love this trick because it helps me quickly draw something that looks right, but it's kinda like a shortcut. It's a handy tool to make sure your drawings look accurate, but it's also important to practice and understand how foreshortening works. Learning foreshortening might feel like learning a new dance. It takes a bit of time and practice. But there's another common mistake beginners often miss, and this one is an easier fix that will make your figure drawings so much better. And the mistake is not focusing on the rhythm of the lines. Drawing the rhythm is the continuity of lines, or how one line flows into another. Look at this drawing and compare it to this one. It might be hard to notice at first, but the reason the second drawing looks better is the rhythm of the lines. Beginners often forget to continue their lines, which can make some body parts seem disconnected or like they don't belong to the same body. And unfortunately, when people see your art, they notice this disconnection. To fix this, start extending and connecting your lines between different body parts. It doesn't matter if it gets a bit messy. Don't be afraid to lightly capture the rhythm between the different parts of the body. This will add unity and grace to your figures. Think of it like creating a song with lines. Find the connections between the body parts and create a beautiful harmony in your drawing. Rhythm in drawing works like music. It ties everything together, focusing on the movement as a whole rather than the individual parts of the body. When I was younger, I didn't know much about drawing, especially anatomy. I didn't know anything about anatomy. I just knew that drawing made me happy. And I didn't have much confidence in my art and often compared myself to others. This insecurity is really easy to find in my old work. Because a common mistake all beginners make is small, fuzzy lines in your drawing. Now, this is a clear sign of being a beginner. I remember I used to have this obsession with not making any bad drawings, and somehow making small fussy lines seemed like less of a commitment than bold, confident ones. It was almost as if I was afraid that my next line would be the one to ruin my drawing. And you might think it's an impossible challenge to break this pattern, because the problem is in our self-doubt as artists. So I couldn't help but wonder, is there really a way to feel more confident? I was reading The Creative Act by Rick Rubin recently and stumbled upon a quote that will give you the answer and help you reshape the way you think. It's worth noting the distinction between doubting the work and doubting yourself. An example of doubting the work would be, I don't know if my song is as good as it can be. Doubting yourself might sound like, I can't write a good song. These statements are worlds apart, both in accuracy and in the impact in the nervous system. So it's not that I can't make a good drawing. It's just that my drawings aren't as good as I want them to be. Well, that's an easier fix. We make art because it makes us happy. And I learned I don't need to make good drawings to be happy. I just want to draw. And that makes me happy. If I do a bad drawing, I can just try again. It literally doesn't matter. You do it for you, because life is too short not to try to fill your days with the things that you want to do. Discovering this perspective allowed me to not care if I failed at one drawing, and this meant I could try to fake my confidence and practice making bold, confident lines using my whole arm and taking up the space. And I failed many times as I was trying to get more confident at line making. But I didn't care, I just showed up daily and faked confidence until one day, I didn't need to fake it anymore. I learned how to draw long, confident lines, and I now apply this confidence to every part of my drawings. I learned to hold my pencil in different ways for different things, to shade with the side of the lid, and to be free to fail and try again. But the most important part of this whole experience was that I truly understood that art is supposed to be play. You're not playing to win, you're playing to play. Playing is supposed to be fun, and perfectionism gets in the way of fun. It takes time, but I can assure you that if you give yourself permission to practice, learn, fail, and try again, you'll be drawing things you never thought possible. Just like it happened to me. And in this video, I share with you how I challenged myself to spend 100 hours learning how to draw the figure.